you seen this man?
Not so fast!
Hi, my name is Rhett Allain.
Rhett is a physics professor at Southeastern, Louisiana University.
Today, I'll be breaking down amazing feats of physics from superheroes in movies and television. Superhero landing, Deadpool.
Go get some.
Superhero landing. She gonna do a superhero landing. Wait for it. Woo! Superhero landing. Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
You know, one of the great things about Deadpool, both in the comics and in the movies, is that he breaks the fourth wall and interacts with the audience.
I know, right?
In this case, he talks about the superhero landing.
Superhero landing. She gonna do a superhero landing. Wait for it.
The idea is a superhero lands with one knee, one fist, and a foot on the ground, so 3 contact points, but it's a very sudden move. It's not like a normal landing. It does look really cool, and it happens all the time. And is that better than the way a normal person would hit the ground? The answer is no.
Yeah, that's really hard on your knees. Totally impractical. They all do it.
So you got to think about the forces acting on a person while they're landing from falling from somewhere. The key is to have the force as small as possible. One way to do that is to increase the distance over which you stop. So if I jump and land on the ground, I let my knees bend and my center of mass moves down while my knees bend, increases the distance over which I stop, and decreases the force. There's a thing called a parachute landing fall, and you don't even stand up. You hit, you bend down, you roll over on the ground, and you increase the distance over which you stop even more. That's the best way to do it. The superhero landing, it's just gonna be a bad idea.
And we all know how this turned out.
Kinetic energy, Black Panther.
Hey, look at your suit. You've been taking bullets, charging it up with kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is a quantity you can use to describe objects in motion. We have momentum, which is mass times velocity, and then there's kinetic energy, which is 1/2 mass velocity squared. You show off.
You know, kinetic energy isn't a real thing. It's a way to view nature. It's a way to view interactions. So anything that's moving would have kinetic energy. If I take a baseball and I throw it, it's moving, it has mass, so it has kinetic energy. Black Panther's suit somehow has an interaction between the bullet and the suit to take the kinetic energy of the bullets and store it in some type of internal battery. And then once he has enough energy stored up, he can release it in a energy pulse of some type to do whatever he wants. I'm not sure exactly how it works. That's what makes him Black Panther, and the technology of Wakanda is beyond me to fully understand. Recoil, Wonder Woman. So what is recoil? Suppose I am standing on a frozen lake and I have a basketball or some heavy weighted ball and I throw the ball. Well, the ball's momentum is going to change because I exert a force on it. But the ball pushes back on me with the same force, so I'm going to have the exact same change momentum. That's going to make me move back.
Of course, it makes complete sense.
This is the idea of recoil. When you throw something one way, you go back the other way. So a bullet has momentum. It's moving, it has mass, it has velocity. But it turns out that it's moving really fast, but it has pretty low mass, and it doesn't have that much momentum. If you collide a bullet with a bracelet or a person in some way, then that person would have to recoil with the same momentum. But the person has such a large mass, the recoil velocity would be super tiny. And so you don't really get recoil from normal bullets when they hit people. So in this case, Wonder Woman deflecting a bullet, it should be fine.
Is there anything else you want to show me?
Contact area, Justice League.
I'll take the ones on the right.
The Superman building things impossible, forget about the flying, forget about the super strength. Even with that, he couldn't do this. So imagine you had a Jell-O cake. It's like a big blob of Jell-O this big.
Is this a bad time to bring up my blood sugar?
and you want to lift up the Jell-O with a toothpick by pushing on the bottom. The toothpick would just go right through the Jell-O. On top of that, the Jell-O would probably break in half too. So both of those things are a problem. Superman's pushing in the middle of the building, trying to support the whole thing. He would just poke right through the whole thing and the building would fall. If he wants to actually lift the building, he needs to increase the contact area, either get bigger hands, which that's probably not gonna happen, or he could possibly have some cables that attach to multiple locations on the building and then lift it from the top. Maybe it doesn't look as cool, but it'd be more plausible at least.
Weird. In so many ways.
Strength, Spider-Man Homecoming. At the beginning, Spider-Man uses his webs to connect one side of the boat to the other in an attempt to prevent it from falling apart. And it doesn't work.
Yeah, Spider-Man!
It could be any number of reasons, particularly he just doesn't have enough webs to actually exert enough force between the two halves to prevent them from falling apart. The ultimate tensile strength, the point at which the tension breaks, where the string breaks for Spider-Man's webs, I mean, you'd first need to know what it's made of, and then you need to know the diameter of it. It's really difficult to estimate how much that could be. A better way to approach this would be to calculate the tension that he exerts on the boat when it breaks. The more they lean, the greater the gravitational force is on that piece to pull it apart, and you need a lot of force to keep these two things together. And maybe his webs just aren't strong enough to do that.
Great job, Peter. You're 98% successful.
98?
I suspect the 98% means that the total force needed to keep one side of the boat up is 98% of what you need to prevent it from falling over. If the force isn't great enough, the boat tilts and it stretches that web, and eventually the web breaks. And then you have no force from the web, and that makes more webs break and have a sort of cascading failure.
Hi, Spider-Man. Band practice?
The Iron Man suit may be more successful at pushing the boat back together for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's possible that his mini micro thruster rockets that attach to the side of the ship are just stronger than Spider-Man's webs. The second big thing is that those forces can keep moving as the boat moves, whereas Spider-Man's force is a static force. Once you stretch past that, it can't pull it back together. It just prevents it from falling apart further. The ship floats because it prevents water from getting inside and makes the overall effective density less than water. Once you violate the integrity of the hull, game's over. That thing's just gonna sink really fast. I don't think Spider-Man's gonna have enough time to push it back together. I don't think Iron Man's gonna have enough time to push it back together. Now, it's just a movie, so we're okay with that.
What do you want me to do?
I think you've done enough.
Terminal velocity, Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Is he wearing a parachute? No. No, he wasn't.
So when Captain America jumps out of the plane, there's really two forces that come into play. The first is the gravitational force that pulls him down, but there's another force. As he starts to fall and increase in speed, there's an air resistance force. He's colliding with the air molecules, and those air molecules push back on him in the opposite direction that he's moving. And in fact, it gets to the part where it is the same as the gravitational force. Now he has an upward pushing force and a downward pushing force that are equal in magnitude. With equal magnitude forces, he moves at a constant speed. We call this terminal velocity because he doesn't get any faster. When Captain America first leaves the plane, he starts off in a standard skydiving position. This position allows the largest surface area for the highest air resistant force and therefore the lowest terminal velocity. It also allows you to move your hands in a way that you could actually control your motion by pushing the air in different directions. Towards the end of the jump, he actually goes into a more vertical position. This decreases the surface area that collides with the air and makes him fall even faster.
No, you're a lot heavier than you look.
Had a big breakfast.
He wants to hit the water feet first, so he flips over, hits the water feet first in like a pencil dive or pencil jump. And the nice thing about the feet first vertical position,
when hitting the water is that it will make him penetrate the deepest into the water, which increases the distance over which he stops and decreases the stopping force and gives him a better chance of surviving. I mean, it's Captain America, so he's probably going to survive no matter what. Net force, Iron Man 3.
Listen to me. See that guy? I'm gonna swing by.
Are you just gonna grab? I'll electrify your arm. You won't be able to open your hand. We can do this, Heather.
Once you start having multiple people in a chain hanging together, the person on the bottom, they're just hanging like a normal person. The next person has to pull with the force equal to their own weight and the force of the person pulling down below them, which is their weight. The third person has to pull with the force of 3 people. And you can see it starts getting really large and uncontrollable. Iron Man wants to solve this problem by essentially electrically shocking their muscles into contracting so they can't let go.
I'll electrify your arm. You won't be able to open your hand.
I don't think that would work for a number of reasons.
I get a lot of this. It's okay.
First, if you get like 5 people in a line, it's probably not just about muscles. Things start to break in human arms and it wouldn't work. The second thing is that you can have an electrical shock make people's muscles contract. But the problem is that you normally need a closed circuit. You need a path for the current to go there and all the way back. And he just has a chain. There's no way for the current to get back to Iron Man and use his power supply to force this shock gripping.
Nice work, guys. Excellent. Good team effort all around. Go us.
Disintegration, the boys.
Poster.
Eh.
Don't you ever besmirch Billy. I can't stop.
So A-Train's running really quick and he runs into the girl. What would really happen? I mean, it's such a hard question because it really depends on A-Train. Is he invincible or is he like just a really fast normal human? If he's a really fast normal human colliding with a stationary human, they would both have the same amount of damage because if he pushes on her with the force, she pushes back with the same force, so whatever happened to her would happen to him. In the clip, she just turns into goo. So clearly he has some other powers other than just being super fast. Would he just push right through her or would she recoil? Well, it really depends on, again, how fast he's going and how he actually hits her. If one part of him hits her before the rest of him does, he could essentially poke through her. I know that's kind of gross. And once he's done that, he kind of disables the integrity of her body such that it's possible she could go splattered all over the place. On watching that clip, there is one issue that is weird. If he's running this way and hits her, why does some of the blood go back on her boyfriend? It appears that he hitting her would push all the blood in the same direction he was moving. So, I mean, it's kind of a gross clip, but it shows an important point in the story in that the superheroes aren't always nice guys.
Sorry about having a girlfriend, all right?
Running on water, The Incredibles. So let's say you want to run on water. You need an upward force to counteract the gravitational force that pushes down. One way to do this would be kind of like slapping the water. If I hit the water with my hand or a foot, then the water pushes up on me. But it's not a huge force and it doesn't last for very long.
I don't know how he does it.
That means that you have to hit the water really hard and then hit it again really hard. So you really got to move your feet back and forth super quick in order to get this whole thing to work.
You must have been booking. How fast do you think you were going?
I mean, I don't think a normal person can do it, but clearly Dash can do it. So when he stops and kind of just hovers there for a little bit on the water, I think it's the Wile E. Coyote effect. So if you remember, Wile E. Coyote would chase the Roadrunner, he'd go off a cliff, and then he'd say, well, I just realized I'm not on the ground, and then he falls. It's very dramatic, and it's kind of funny, and I think that's exactly what happens with Dash. Of course, as soon as he stops, he would start sinking into the water and fall down, but it's comedic effect.
What are you waiting for?
I don't know. Something amazing, I guess.
Flying, Iron Man.
Ready? In 3, 2, 1.
In this scene, Tony Stark is testing out his Iron Man suit. He had built one before, but it wasn't as sophisticated as this one.
Not bad.
So he needs to make sure the thrusters are configured properly to allow him to fly. So imagine you had like a pencil and you want to hold it on your hand right here, and you're holding it from the bottom. If you push up, it's very easily just going to tip over. And so rockets from the bottom of a device are a little problematic. Real rockets do this by having gimbals on the thrusters that can change the direction very easily. But there's another solution, and that's to have a higher thruster. And that's what Iron Man does with his hands. When his hands are higher up, then the thrust is above the center of mass, and it makes it much more stable. And on top of that, he has his hands further apart from his body, and that further increases stability. In fact, there's a guy that has real life Iron Man suit type flying, and he uses jets on his hands, and it's much more stable than putting them on your feet. So this is exactly how I would do it if I was going to do it. Impact Force, Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, Groot. You can't. You'll die.
I'm not sure what exactly Groot does in this case, but if he stays completely rigid as a rigid sphere, then it's not really going to help people inside. Now, if he has some type of, I don't know, in a car we call it a crumple zone, where the car actually changes dimensions and crumples up during a collision, this would increase the distance over which it stops, which would decrease acceleration, and it would make it more survivable for the people inside. Another aspect of this cage idea could be one to protect from things like debris that gets thrown around during the crash. That would definitely work. I mean, if you have a shell around you and something comes flying in, that shell could block it. It's not just that you want wood to be strong, you definitely want it to be flexible. Groot, maybe he's like, maybe he can pick what kind of wood he grows into, so he could make it both flexible and strong depending on the situation.
Thank you. See? Groot's the only one of you who has a clue.
If I was Groot, which I am clearly not Groot.
I am Groot.
I would have like things go down below the sphere that you couldn't see and have those impact with the ground first and have them kind of be your crumple zone, and then keep the sphere rigid to protect from debris. And then you'd have a rigid part as a sphere and then a springy part below. Force pairs, the Defenders. So in this scene from the Defenders, we have Jessica Jones, super strong, and Luke Cage, super strong. And when they punch, they really would have to consider what angle they push at. If I push with some super large force, then that same force is going to be applied to me because forces come in pairs. Forces are always an interaction between two objects. So if I punch horizontally, the person could go flying across the room, but I'd go flying back the other way, and that may be effective, but it wouldn't look cool. There's a better way to punch. If I was a super powered puncher and I punched up, then that person would push down on me and I would get pushed into the floor, but I would not get pushed back. So if you're a super powered person, you can't just go around punching like a normal person. You have to think about the consequences of your actions. But we should probably all do that anyway.
Jessica?
Luke,
How you been?
long story.
X-ray vision, Man of Steel.
Are you all right, Clark?
So this is the part where Clark Kent starts to realize that he has powers. And one of those powers is X-ray vision. How does X-ray vision work? I think the first question is, how does vision work? We see things because light reflects off of them and enters our eye. Or maybe it's a light source itself, but light has to enter your eye in order to see things. X-rays are just another type of light with a smaller wavelength than visible light. But in this case, how does Superman have X-ray vision? Is stuff coming out of his eyes or is stuff coming into his eyes? If X-rays are coming out of his eyes, he can't see them. It's just shooting out. There are X-rays around, background radiation. It's not very much, and that could pass through people's bodies and he could see them. But overall, it's definitely a problematic thing to be able to see through people with just your eyes. Wind up, Avengers Endgame.
I knew it.
So Captain America has Thor's hammer and he's trying to hit Thanos. He could just hold the hammer and swing his whole arm and hit him. But by winding up the hammer first, it's going in a circular motion. The hammer is actually going at a greater speed. If he times it just right, his arm's moving up and the hammer's moving up relative to the hand, so that gives it a much greater speed on impact with Thanos' head. So greater impact speed would mean a greater impact force and hopefully knock him down in this case. There's no real benefit to spinning it multiple times except for the main benefit that it looks cool. And if you're a superhero and you're in, a big battle, number one, you gotta look cool.
Give me that. You have the little one.
Conclusion.
I think these are just great examples of, even if they're not real physics, physics is still all around us. And we can find it in the most trivial things, even superhero movies. So physics in movies, I'm all for it, even if it's not 100% correct. Because what if you did have completely realistic physics in superhero movies? It might not be that much fun. We go to the movies not for the correct physics. We go there because they don't have correct physics, really. And I'm fine with that.